is up, everybody? It is so good to be back on the mic. You have no idea. Full transparency, I apologize. You know, when opportunities come your way, you're going to take advantage of them. That's what our family's doing, and we're continuing to do, which is awesome. Super blessed, super thankful. But the blade dive is still very much a thing. So, you know, let's get that out there for everybody to understand. But I need to breathe some life back into it, and I can't do that without support. So, I really want to thank Prenoth for continuing to believe in me, to believe in the podcast, what it can be, what it can expand to be. So their company is awesome. I can't say enough about them. And the people that I speak with and work with on kind of driving this train, which is rad. It should be a collaborative thing. So super grateful for Prenoth. I also want to give a shout out and a thank you to Olivia Rowan for essentially allowing me the opportunity to take over the venue at Cutter's Camp. I mean, I don't think there's anybody else that can say that they've just been given the Blue Ox Bar at Timberline Lodge to create podcast episodes. That's never been done. So thank you very much to Olivia. As a bit of a tease for this year's Cutter's Camp, because I'll be there, Mary Walsh and I will be co-hosting, and we've got a bit of a surprise for our panelists, and it is a stacked list of panelists, so stay tuned for that episode. But for this episode, we have Dave Franzen, we've got Charles Beckinsale, we've got Landon Taylor finally on the mic, and then we have the Marsha Hovey from Trollhagen. I was super excited to push record on this one, and that week last year it was amazing. So without further ado, episode 48 of the Blade Dive Fireside Chat, sponsored by Prenoth. Here we go.
He said and give it the juice. Already.
So, welcome everybody, Cutter's Camp. If you can believe it, this is 19 years this year that we've been coming to Timberline and having this amazing gathering of all of you, celebrating what you do each season. And so thank you all for coming here, and I hope it's a good week for all of you. We have begun a tradition where we kick off our camp with a fireside chat and have some esteemed guests that will come and share some of their stories from the season. And last year, we got to work with Parker Bowen with the Blade Dive, and we're doing it again this year. Thrilled to have Parker here with Blade Dive to do this session with us at the Fireside Chat. So on our panel, we have Dave Franzen with Kingvale. Little known fact, Day came up with the concept of Cutter's Camp. Way back when we were interviewing Day at Super Park. Is it Super Park? Is that where it was? Yeah, he's on one of the teams there.
In 2002.
2002, we did an article on Super Park, and we met Day, and he had this idea of why don't we all get together, and so we kind of ran with that and worked with Day in that first year. So thank you, Day. Next, we have Charles Beckinsale with Prenoth. We're thrilled to have Charles here. We have Marsha Hovey from Trollhagen. Yeah. And Landon Taylor with SBT. So, but first, I'm going to hand it off to Ben Finn with Prenoth, who has a couple of words. Prenoth is the sponsor of this evening that we do here with the Fireside Chat, as well as the annual Windell's Night tomorrow night and Dodgeball Tournament. So, Ben, thank you very much, and here you go.
Thanks, Olivia. And Sam Magazine, want to thank Logan and his team and the entire crew here at Timberline, because they take really good care of us over the course of the week. So welcome to the Prenoth Fireside Chat. Just out of curiosity, how many people in the room, how many of you is it your first time at Cutter's Camp? Show of hands.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Welcome. This is a really special event that Sam puts on. I would like to encourage everybody at the beginning of every day, ask yourself, what do I want to get out of today? And at the end of the day, ask yourself, did I get what I wanted out of today? There's a tremendous amount of experience in this room from the manufacturers, from each of you. We've got people from mountain operations, contractors, whatever you're facing at your home resort. If you're having issues, if you can't figure something out, I guarantee you that somebody in this room is in the same boat, has faced the same issues. So I encourage you to meet new people, make new relationships, form those friendships. The ski industry is a small industry. The terrain park world is even smaller. So we're all in it together, and have a great time this week. I hope you get everything out of it that you want to. And with that, I will turn it over to Parker and our esteemed panel.
Thank you, Ben. I don't think that I need to reintroduce everybody. I mean, that was done amazingly. And also, fun fact, that's the second time I've gotten Ben Finn on the microphone. So thanks for that, Ben. Awesome introduction. Like Olivia said, this is the second time we've done this live to record it. And it's been super fun. So it's definitely an honor. It was well received last year, so we're going to repeat the process. But so the objective, as Ben said, is to just really make sure that everybody that's here in attendance gets out of the week what they want. And that you do realize that we have some fantastic people here that are very knowledgeable in their areas of expertise, as well as can talk the talk and walk the walk about some casual things too. So with that being said, I've got some specific questions kind of lined out for all four of you. So thanks for being here. Appreciate you. But I'm going to start with Day, and we're going to kick it off with the legend, so to speak, of Kingvale. And he's shaking his head at me like, dude, that is not the case. But
it doesn't feel like a legend every day, bud. At least not this season.
Copy that. But like you said, like this season has been tough for you, comparatively to last season, where it was really the relaunch of what was something that really catapulted the terrain park product into really a cultural cult following, so to speak, for the people that were either the pass holders or came up there to ride. And so that's how I want to kick it off, because as we all know in this room, things aren't seamless. They change, and you've got to adjust and pivot. So Day, comparatively to last season, you just created or recreated something awesome. What did you do this season to ultimately make sure that that same product was out there while you fought the 800 inches of frickin' snow that fell?
The main goal was to survive.
Yeah.
About March 15th, I had a long conversation with myself on whether I was going to make it to the end or not, because it just didn't stop.
Yeah.
We had a good start to the season. I was off and rolling. Park was good. And then we just didn't see it again until April 1st, somewhere in there. The biggest challenge for me, though, is I'm one cat, one guy. I can't just call up the team and go, hey, let's dig out, boys. It's a couple hand crew and me. And when you're dealing with that much snow, and there was no breaks. Like a normal Tahoe winter, you get 4 feet of snow, a week of sun, repeat. This was
brutal.
This was no layers, just hammer down the whole time. You'd get like a 8-hour window, and they'd be like, it's going to be clear for 8 hours. Dig out. And
well, when I was in town for the national conference, and just hey, I can't be in the area and not call Day and see what he's doing, right, if we can connect at some point. And you were like, hey man, I really appreciate the phone call, but I got shit to do. I got to dig out. I don't have time to do this. And so I kind of had to wrap my head around it, and remembering what it's like to be in that area too, even on a non-gnarly year. The Sierras and the Tahoe region see so much snow. But back to you said, the one man circus, the one man show, so to speak. That's a challenge.
Well, the nice thing about the season before was it snowed a lot in December, and that was it for the year. And we had plenty for the year. You could do everything you wanted. You could build anything you wanted. And it was just beautiful sunny park days from there on out, So the biggest challenge for us too is we're not a ski resort. We're just a tow rope park.
Yeah.
So you sell season passes, and they're like, but they're open. And I'm like, yeah, but there's no park.
Yeah.
You're just riding top to bottom. And of course they're open. They're a resort, So I had to educate a few on that. But for the most part, my customer seems to understand the struggles we go through, and, that we are small, and I don't have a fleet of 10 cats that can just go dig out a mountain for me.
Yeah. Well, I want to pivot there, and I want to kind of kick it over to Marsha, because when you and I talked offline just to discuss what it is to build what you do, or build the product that you have to offer, so to speak, but then recruiting or staffing that you do have, And I know, Marsha, that I guess the question I want to throw at you is, and this one's heavy.
Thanks, Parker.
Yeah, no problem. I know you got it. But like you and I talked as well, and I spoke in depth with Adam and some of the struggles you've had with hiring a terrain park manager, hiring a terrain park supervisor, recruiting for something like that. I really want to know, and I'd love for you to share with the group what your struggles were, what you learned, how you can maybe use the answer to this question to piggyback what you're going to talk about tomorrow. But take it away. I would love to know.
Yeah, heavy one. Really
Heavy.
bringing it
Sorry
down,
about
talking
that.
about low staffing. So much like many other resorts, we have staffing issues. Trollhagen, raise your hand if you've ever been to Trollhagen. Sick party people. Raise your hand if you've ever been to a rope tow in the Midwest. More? Cool. Just like Day, a lot of people think Trollhagen is just a terrain park, but we are a small ski area, and we have kind of two worlds that exist within our ski resort, where we have people that know Valhalla and that's it, and the people that are just growing up with rentals and skiing for fun. And sometimes it's hard to convince the higher ups that we need this new position, that we need a terrain park supervisor, and that it's worth the money and worth the time for our brand. And then we couldn't really fill that position. So we went to bat to get someone to do this job, and then didn't have anybody to do it.
So who did it? Who ran it?
I did. I'm just kidding. I was thinking about this on the plane. You know, your park cruise is like a romantic relationship. Okay.
Yeah.
No relationship is the same. No set of rules will ever apply to a relationship the same way. Your resort is like this little magical place that might not operate like any other resort in the world, and that's okay. You just have to find what it is that makes sense for your team. Maybe a terrain park supervisor is not a title that you will ever have at your resort. Maybe you have a mountain manager and assistant mountain manager, number 1 and number 2, sitting over there. That
Booty. Shout out to Booty.
We're talking about Booty and Mahler over there. That kind of absorb those duties on top of what they already have, because they do have the most experience and their knowledge is so beneficial. So we kind of restructured and said, okay, maybe this year we don't have a terrain park supervisor. Maybe we rely more on them, and we start recruiting that next generation. So that's something that we've been really honing in on, is how do we educate and find that next generation to have that same passion that we all do, because that's the biggest thing. If you don't have the passion for this industry, you're going to possibly burn out. I don't know if anyone's ever felt
that's
that.
Fair.
Maybe.
That's fair. So was it, like, just to be really clear, was it Mahler and Booty that ran the show? Was that what happened? You didn't even hire anybody?
Yes, this year they ran the show. They're very tired. We do park resets every 3 weeks at Valhalla. That's something that's important to us, to always change it up. And clear communication is vital. And whatever communication system works for you. Maybe it's a group text message. Maybe it's a Facebook group, an Instagram group. But they kind of, Booty's overnight, Mahler's daytime. So they had that swap. They had that check-in with every shift to make sure that things were getting raked out properly in the morning and at night, just to ensure that when someone shows up at Trollhagen, it is the product that they see online and that they've read about and dreamt about.
Yeah.
Because if we don't have that, the dream falls apart.
Oof, the magic. Well, kicking it back to you really quick, and then I want to get to Charles and Landon, but like just talking about the goal for the week and being able to speak to anybody that you can to take away any knowledge, like what would you want to connect and discuss with Trollhagen? Like, you've got the whole team here.
Well, I've already started beating them up.
Oh, okay.
Because it's hard for me to compare myself to anybody in Tahoe, and just speaking rope tow and, you know, these park kids and just because it's a completely different dynamic than that park at any of the other resorts, in my opinion.
Yep.
The vibe, it's more comparable to a skate park. If you've ever been to a skate park on a really busy day when there's a heavy session going on and the progression level is just stacking all day, that's what the rope tow delivers. And just being able to pick the brain of these guys who've been doing it so long is wonderful.
Yeah.
So I'm excited over the next few days to all the little nuances of what they've dealt with and, I'm hoping they can solve some of my problems.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Is there an hourly rate for that, Marsha, that
I was gonna say,
conversation?
the secret sauce, it's something that we've all held on to for so long, and we're at a point in the industry where we can no longer hold on to the secret sauce if our industry can continue to evolve. And I think it's about everyone succeeding. If a ski resort fails, we all fail.
Yeah.
And to help out Day and to help out Kingvale and to have that community created elsewhere,
Yeah.
hell yeah.
That's awesome. Charles, so I'm watching you on the projector screen while I'm getting ready to ask you this question too. So there's that sick park that I'm looking at being built right now. But my question's kind of along the same lines. It's deep, it's heavy, but I want you to go there. You ready?
I guess, yeah.
Shoot, yeah. All right. Well, so Marsha's talked about kind of the aspect of what it is to pivot and not be able to hire somebody and put things into place. I want to know if you think that pay has anything to do with that. And if we're paying people the correct amount of money that they're worth, how do we intertwine development into that?
I think it's a tough one because everyone's talking about budgets and park budgets being cut back, and I think it just has to be kind of done efficiently. When I was at Perisher for that time as a terrain park director, I left there 6-7 years ago. But we had a roster that was really, really good. I headhunted, I think it was Brandon. We had Dougie there, who was super experienced as well. We had a lot of good builders, but we had 6 spots and we culled it down to 4, and we paid everyone a lot more. So we still spent the same money. But the way I pitched it to resort was, you would get less in the damage bill each year by having professionals. You'd make less mistakes. The park would go up and it'd be right straight away, instead of going back and having to fix things.
Yep.
And we're in a lucky position. Obviously, being Southern Hemisphere, we're quite appealing for people to come and work just to gain more experience in the off-season. But I'd say, for your regular park program, when they're fighting against others that are competitive, I think, if I was a terrain park manager these days, I'd be looking to split the budget a little bit differently as well. I'd find one guy that was, really, really good, really efficient, and not just say, listen, you're the head builder, you run around and go crazy, and everyone's here to back you up, but more like you're the guy, half your role is to build, half your role is to ensure that everyone around you is kind of learning as quick as they can. And I think we can't train people quick enough in the park industry right now. And I think you can't pay everyone enough to keep up with the prices in ski resorts. So There has to be this balance between passion and pay. And we've always kind of walked that line. And I think, these days, guys that put the time in that are really good, they should be, making a decent enough wage so that they're kept interested and they can have a kid, have a house, that kind of stuff. And the guys coming up underneath them, there should be a pay scale appropriately. Because at one point, that guy might have a bad day and quit, or he might have, you might just get over it. And then you need the next guy in line. Because I look at a program like with the Blackcomb, and Ty Weed is almost single-handedly holding that up. Because it's just he's I was there, I trained him, he's there, he's training others, but there's not enough long-term people staying in it around him. So it's you look at a program like that and think it's bulletproof, but it's not a mammoth where there's a big culture of good builders learning from one another. And I think it's just something we all face. The more people can share information with each other and help bring each other up as quick as possible, the stronger, terrain parks will remain. But unfortunately, right now, you see a bit of a downward trend in experience and just quality in some areas. So
no, fair enough. No, solid answer. I'll kick it over to the other operator on the panel who travels the world and dabbles in the dirt world of things. Just curious, and I got another question for you, but I'm going to kind of piggyback what Charles was talking about. As you rove around and do the different projects that you've done, how have you kind of witnessed the succession that Charles was just describing and other operators coming up? Are you single-handedly kind of supplying some input, sprinkling it in there? Are you sitting with them in the machine? Are you going beyond, or are you visually seeing it happen at different resorts as you go around and see them?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. We do a lot of hands-on training with operators. We'll sit with them, and then we'll also build side by side with them.
Yep.
So it's both sides of it, but I think we're all seeing it across the board of people that we're training that aren't sticking around.
Yep.
Right. You spend time with people and then a couple years later they're gone because it's hard. So I think a lot of resorts are pushing really hard to do the training. I think it's kind of almost feels rushed and like it just pushes people kind of away from really sticking with it the way they're trying to go about doing the training at their resorts.
Fair enough.
Every place is different.
Sure.
Right? Like everyone does a different thing, but I'd say a couple operators a year that we hear that have been working with for a few years that they're like, this is my last year, and it sucks. It sucks to hear.
Yeah. No, it's a heavy topic. Charles, I'm gonna kick it back to you. Just tying in that development piece, and I know like training costs money, right? So you and I were talking about some great concepts with respect to how maybe a resort could really tackle that internally. You actually had a cool name for it, if you remember the.
It's not mine. There was a guy called Matty Clement Perisher, and it was kind of his concept for the grooming crew, but we adapted it to the parks. Once every 2 weeks, or it was pretty much once a week, but we do it, different days each week so that we'd make sure we tied in with the whole crew. But it was we call them toolbox talks, and it's where basically the whole crew would sit down before they went out, and the older guys in the crew would answer questions for the younger guys trying to figure out, tiller settings for takeoffs or, winch questions or anything like that, or just trends in what we were seeing each week, and safety concerns and stuff like that. But just a kind of like a group sit down where everyone could ask each other questions, talk about issues they're having, and just get everything out on the table. Sometimes someone's building too much and not giving others a go, and just getting the feelings out on the table too, because there's a lot of emotions in park grooming. So just making sure that no one's out to knife each other and everyone plays nice. So that was part of the reasoning too. But I think stuff like that's kind of good. And at the end of those chats, sometimes one of us would go out in the cat with someone that had a question about building a jump or setting a rail, and we'd just make time to make sure that they understood it properly and everything was good. So
totally.
Communication's pretty key.
Communication is key. Yeah, even if it's over the radio, whatever it is, it's key. Marsha and Day, I'm going to throw it back to you with respect to kind of any movement with that vision we just unpacked there. Troll, King Vale, who you are as a person. Where do you think you can make the biggest impact at your resort from a training standpoint and perspective if you were to deploy it with recruiting? Again, kind of leading into that conversation tomorrow. Or if you're a one-man show, how can you essentially talk to the people that you adore?
Ladies first.
And you're stoked on your product. Or their product, sorry. Yeah.
Day said ladies first.
Okay, so you're up. Yeah, you got to go.
We love that. To the 3-4 women out there, what up, ladies?
Whoop, whoop.
Do we have an air horn? Are we bomb hole level out here? Dang. Wow.
What it do?
That's a new one.
That was amazing, Parker.
No, thank you very much. I pulled that one out of my hat.
So we're talking about training as something that has to be given proper funds to, and that's very real. For us at Trollhagen with 79 acres, and we don't deal with a lot of stuff that other people deal with.
Yep.
I really feel like our place is inviting those fresh people in and really opening their eyes to these jobs, and leaving it to the rest of the industry to figure out how they are trained. But at Troll, we had Take the Rake, and it really has created a movement of people that have seen these jobs as something that they can do across the board. And I think that's a really critical thing. We have so many areas of training, from knowing that it's a job to finding a way to survive and make a living out of this career. And like Landon said, a lot of people leave. And I feel like that's within any industry. But I feel like we take it more personally because, as all of you know, this is a family and this is our lives. And it's that blurry line of where your life and your passion ends. And there is no real boundary. Which some of us need to make better boundaries. But that's another topic.
It's a good topic, though.
It's a good topic. But, we take it really personally when we put effort into someone and they leave. And we experience that at Troll. And it always stings. But I don't think that should be a deterrent from investing in these people and having them try on this career and see if it's for them. And hopefully they stay until they're old and sad and tired.
But we want people to.
Adam?
I was gonna say, let's pivot from that.
Old and happy and
Yeah.
so rich and just counting their money.
I was gonna say, like, we definitely expect people. I would want somebody to grow and to go, right. I would want them to take their skills they've learned from the resort and deploy it somewhere else if that's what their goal is. Would love to know what you have to say on the matter of the day.
If I could find anybody to train, I would.
Yeah. That's true.
That's the biggest struggle. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I've been around this for a long time, and I see a decline in people with the skills that all of you have. And I don't travel around as much as the rest of these guys, but the resorts I've been a part of over the years, it seems like it is waning as far as the passion to do what we do. And I guess that takes us back to the conversation of pay. But it was never pay for me. I mean, I would have done anything behind the base lodge to get in a snowcat 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like whatever it took was my passion.
Dirty boy.
I mean, you know what I'm saying. So these days,
Shaquille O'Neal saying stuff.
These days I get a lot of kids that are like, well, I raked for a season.
Yeah.
I should be able to build now. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, bring your own snowcat and let's go.
Yeah.
Because, that's the struggle these days, is just finding anybody who really is passionate about it. I get a lot of kids that just want to ride and they just want to film and get their gram going and get the media out for themselves, and their whole promotion is self. And I understand that, but I'm always trying to promote the big picture, and I'll find a good guy every once in a while that I'm like starting to train, and then he goes and shovels roofs for $150 an hour all season.
Yeah.
And I will never fault an employee for bettering their financial situation. Like, how do you stop somebody from doing better? You don't.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's my struggle is real in that front. Luckily, back in the day, I had a guy like Jay Ridd. If you don't know him, you should. He's one of the greatest human beings on this planet. And him and I together could always have each other's back. And it's a different scenario now. I've got a lot of day crew that is there when they show up or when the riding's good. So it's a different animal now.
Yeah.
And I just don't see that many people chomping at the bit. I mean, there was a line of people who wanted to learn in a park cat 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. Not to sound old, but
You're dating yourself.
I am dating myself.
Well, I think like the question that I think really is Landon's to expand on, and going back to kind of the roving around, visiting different resorts. I from my point of view and where I came from, what I'm doing now, I see massive value in the smaller terrain parks. However, that's not really the same perspective from every operator out there. So I guess from your point of view, how can you essentially demystify a little bit, so to speak, that SPT, big project, big build, photo shoot aspect of stuff when you do visit, and explain that, hey, what you're doing right now is an everyday or a never ever rider is essential to the business aspect of this resort. And so when you're grooming it, when you're building it, when you're pushing snow around for that, you need to know that it does have a place and does have a purpose. Like, is that a message that you're putting out there to them? Where have you seen people kind of grab that message and run with it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of, you get all these operators out there that have a ton of passion and they really want to build their parks and make them big and fun, but a lot of them think that it has to be this large park, right? Or
Yep.
maybe they just want to be like, I want to build that one big jump. And I think some people just have problems realizing the clientele at their mountains. So I think with us and Effective Edge too, going around to different resorts, we try to, mix it up a little bit at the resorts, kind of come up with a program of what size features they need for each mountain, or the percentage of what they need there. I think there's a lot of people, once you talk to them about it, they'll actually retain it and understand it better. But just, it's so easy just to be like, I want to go build that big jump. I mean, the first year I came here to Cutters Camp, I had somebody that hadn't even really run a cat and wanted to go out and build this big jump. And I was like, well, wait a minute, but I wanted to do the same thing when I got into a cat.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely trying to just get people to understand the clientele that they have at those mountains. You got a mountain like Eldora versus Copper Mountain. Eldora doesn't need to have a 60-foot jump necessarily all the time, maybe for a photo shoot. But Copper, of course, they've got a lot of people that train there. And also trying to get people to understand that if those are the things they want to work towards, start off at this resort, learn the machine, learn the snow, learn the programs, and then you could move on to another resort that has those things and expand your skills there.
Yeah. Preach. That was awesome. That's exactly another way I've explained it is too, understanding kind of the analytics of where we sell things like ski and ride school lessons, right? And who rolls through those little parks. For example, the Start Park situation, and understanding that there is a free ticket there if you want to, go participate on that piece of snow, in the hopes that there's an expansion of interest and the person wants to go and ride beyond the Start Park. But no, I think that was awesome. I see some of that being preached to the crews, and I hear of some of it not being preached to the crews. And there's definitely, from my point of view, a misunderstanding of how valuable that stuff is, and that starting where you need to is important, and not necessarily trying to aim for the big stuff. Because Charles, correct me if I'm wrong, with the big shit's hard to build, hard to maintain. Little stuff is extremely difficult to maintain, hard to build, and make it effective.
Yeah, I think anything you can't get a cat behind the takeoff on becomes a bit harder to maintain, knuckles and stuff. So there's definitely more of an art in that. And then when you tell younger people, start small and learn how to build those jumps first before you get onto the bigger stuff, because it is harder to make those come out nicely, consistently. And once you kind of master that, the big jumps are really, really easy as far as bigger transitions, easier areas to kind of work around with the cat. So yeah, I kind of got the easy lane, to be honest.
Yeah.
I got a cable too, so it's usually easy pushing.
With the cable.
But going back to that thing with the size of parks and stuff, we've got I had a mountain manager who was Swiss, and his quote to me, because I was always, when I was younger, I was trying to build all the big shit and get out there like everyone tries to, and he's like, if you were in charge and you were making the money for running this joint, he's like, and you got $1 for every time someone hit a feature, what feature would you build? And you were like, a ride-on box.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you got me.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's one thing to remember is if you want the park program to be successful and make revenue and be busy so that, hopefully your budget grows year on year, you have to really think about where the revenue is coming from for the resort and how they can justify expanding budgets. And I think the big thing to look at is the beginner park. I've got a 6-year-old son now, so I go to Threadbow and I'll just build a beginner park and try to avoid anything large or extra large for a few months a year. But if you have a dialed beginner park and you have your best guys, just throw an eye on that, not just go, oh, rookies, have fun, I'll see you later. I'm going to work on the big stuff, because that stuff's the most important. And then once you grow that and then the next level, and just really focus on the progression of it, because if you got good progression, you can get riders quickly to the bigger stuff, and then you've got a clientele you can justify building bigger stuff for. And then you've got, your winter sports club programs and stuff like that with the freestyle programs. And that's where the money gets spent. If there's a good park, they draw in a good clientele with good coaches, and then they start kind of putting money back in. And then it's, they can quantify it and they can go, yeah, well, let's expand the budget and give you more and expand on that. Because I think you have to think about how the money is going to get to you to be able to do the stuff you want to do.
Yeah.
And you have to work with the resort to make that happen. So,
yeah. Day, I'm going to pivot back to you really quick before we jump into some questions from the audience here behind me, because they got to weigh in and do some push road questions. But people rang your bell this year, dude, and last year.
Yeah.
I want to know, because talking offline about how creative that feature was, how often did it break?
It didn't break until the last 2 weeks.
Really?
And then it was out of service. It was honestly out of service for the signal team, and they were really bummed.
That sucks.
And then I lost all power to the welding area. I wouldn't call it a shop. It's more of a shanty that has power to it that works intermittently. But after a week of sorting that out, I managed to weld it back together. But that was kind of the first prototype of kind of proof of concept to see if it would even work, you know?
But essentially like thousands of tricks happening on a flat bar.
Oh, man, I never imagined. I knew it was going to be cool for a handful of people. Like I pictured like Marcus Rand and all these guys that are always doing these late, you know,
taps, etc.
Yeah, and just to let you know that they know exactly where the end of that rail is. And I was like, well, I'll give you something.
Yeah.
But the kids that I watched progress on that thing, and the double taps and the swivels and stuff that, I mean, just and it's a 20-foot flat bar. Like, come on, it's a 2x4 flat bar. Like, everyone's got one. It's probably the most boring rail in your park to you.
Yeah.
But I put it on that first because I needed to prove that it would even, you know, work. And then I made sure to not put it at the bottom of the park because I knew every kid's first plan was to disaster the whole thing and rip it off. So I didn't move it lower in the park until progressively through the season. But it was a lot of fun, man. I've always been a fan of, it's an old Todd Richards quote, but it's snowboarding is the excuse to suck at skateboarding.
So
and
true.
I've always thought that there's not enough good sounds in snowboarding. There's a lot of great sounds in skateboarding. You know when something awesome is happening in skateboarding, and snowboarding has always missed that to me. So I love stuff that's like that, like it's a reward or an interactive thing, or I've done a lot of spinning stuff or stuff over the years. I'm always trying to just think of a different way to look at the same old stuff with those things. So
I thought it was amazing. I really did. But I do want to give the floor to the audience behind me so we can stay on schedule. So where is Rachel? Rachel Tipler, are you still in the building? Oh, yes, there you are. If I could get your help with just passing around the microphone, that would be amazing. If you don't know Rachel, Rachel is she's all things marketing at Prenoth. Rachel's amazing. She's a badass.
Push row question of the day.
Oh, Logan, thank you, sir.
This one's for Day.
yes.
Day, when did you get so old? Was it recently or a long time ago?
I was probably going to ask you that next. But
Hey.
we've been on this mountain together a long time.
All right.
And off.
Let's not get too emotional already.
I
Actually, I
remember
want to
you
ask.
driving around in Sprites.
Yeah, I know. It was a good time. I was going to ask Day, when you were originally thinking about Cutters Camp and the creation of it, what was your main goal? And do you feel like we're reaching that goal, or you feel like the industry is progressing toward that, or what are your thoughts on that?
No, 100%. It's. I haven't been here since I think 2010. So it's amazing to see it still going and doing what it originally was intended to do. And it was up until that point, there was no place for all of us to get together and come up with a plan. I mean, it was very this camp versus that camp. It was these guys had secrets and these guys weren't sharing. And there's a long story about trade secrets where I got in a lot of trouble for this whole thing back in the day. That's at the bar later, but
I'm gonna ask some questions on that later. not on the record.
But it's great just to get this community together, and I never wanted it to be a school or an accreditation or you get your pass to build park. I wanted it to just be like, what do we all think, and are we all going to do this collectively, or Are we gonna? I mean, and back in the day, it was like, are we all gonna skirt rails? Are we all gonna not skirt rails? Are we gonna get away with this? Or are we not gonna get away with this? So it was just a plan to get everyone on the same page. Was basically the original intent, and luckily she read that.
She is Olivia,
and was like, "Hey, we should do something."
Awesome. Anybody else got any questions? Don't be shy. Oh, we got one right here, one over there.
Marsha, take the rake. What did you do different this year, and what will you do different next year?
Hey, Miles.
Is there air horn for that question first?
He's from the Midwest. Everybody knows you automatically know their name if they're from the Midwest. It's standard practice. Take the rake. What do we do differently? This year, we added a community rake and ride element, which was really, really amazing. We have some awesome women in this room who helped plan that event, and they went out there after the park was built and invited brand new humans that have never touched a rake before or maybe had and were looking for instruction to come out and open Valhalla with all of the women to take the rake. And we had 12 women? Question mark? Gail says yes. And it was really amazing. We had some women come out from other resorts that felt like they were never provided the training that they needed and learned more from the women than they had their own teams. And we were happy to do that, to provide that element to the next generation, which I feel like is the ultimate goal of Take the Rake. And I've said this many times, that Take the Rake is not the answer to the issue of diversifying this group and adding new people to it. It is the spark to ignite the fire, and that fire is blazing all across the country and beyond. And that is something that I hope to see next year and beyond. These events, not just for women, but for everyone that has never felt like they had an opportunity to jump in. So I think that answers the question.
Damn,
yeah?
that was
Ooh, thanks.
awesome.
All right. Thanks, Miles.
Thanks, Miles. I think I saw one right over here behind you, Rachel.
Hey, it got touched on a bit, but you guys talked about both like work-life balance and also like with people you train or like at the resort and trying to keep people involved. But I know it's a little bit general, but like, do you guys have any tips on just making that work-life balance work for yourself? Because you guys have all been doing it for a long time and training people, and you've seen a lot of people come and go in the industry, I'm sure. But I know it would help me and some of the people in here, just if you guys got anything.
I got a quick answer on that one. Take summers off. That's my plan. I destroy myself for the whole winter, and I make it up to myself every summer. And it's not the best plan, but it's the only one that works for me.
Yeah,
I've done back-to-back winters since I started. So I've been back-to-back winters since I was 17. I'm 38 now. I still love what I do, and I think the key is just like when I work for Whistler Blackcomb, we work 4 days a week, so we do 4 10s. And the start of that shift was kind of a bit of a charity, to be honest. Like we'd start at 2:30, we wouldn't get in the cast till 4:30, but they had a pretty good idea on work-life balance. So that was what kind of was the break for me. I would snowboard every day, go to work, 4 nights a week, have 3 days to chill. I mean, just like I think the most important thing for me in life has been like having an amazing, wife that's kind of stood by me through all this crazy stuff I decided to do. And we have a 6-year-old son, and just making time for family and making sure that your phone doesn't always ring. When I was at Perisher, I was always contactable, and my head never left work, and that was pretty unhealthy. But after leaving there, I kind of made some changes in life, and I think just as long as you have good relationships with your friends, good relationships with your family, and don't let work just consume you totally, it stays healthy, and you can do year rounds if you want, but. Yeah, it just depends. If you start feeling burnt out, pull back a little.
I think we got to go down the row here for that question. Yeah, Marsha, you got anything on that?
Yeah, I think a lot of us inherit the past traumas of the generations prior at the ski area, right?
This is so true.
And we have to do it this way because that's how we've been doing it, and we're too tired to come up with a new plan. And
that is the truth.
I think don't be afraid to create a system that works for your employees and your team and your family. We do that a lot at Troll. We are so lucky to have an owner that really trusts us to create a system that works. I think the definition of psychosis is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Insanity.
Insanity. Thank you. You have to throw some shit at a wall and see what sticks. You can't continue in the same routine if your mental health is wavering and you are not enjoying your life anymore. I think that goes for anything. But being honest with yourself and those limits that you hit and trying new things.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I think it's really just like for me, it's mostly just trying to remember why I do this, why I got into it, the passion. Whenever I get to a point where I'm super tired, overworked, over it, ready to go home, it doesn't take me too long to remember why I'm doing what I'm doing. So trying to keep that passion and like go snowboard, go ski, go ride. That's why we're all doing this. It's because that's how we got here. That's why we like doing it. Spend that time on the mountain. Maybe don't go to the mountain that you work at. If you got another mountain that's around there, go somewhere else. Because I would go and pick apart my own park if I went and rode there all the time. But just it's always hard with the industry where it's at, with money, housing, everything that's going on in our industry, and we lose sight of why we're doing this and why we got here to begin with. So try to remember that.
That riding another mountain's pretty key.
Yeah,
like when I worked at,
remembering your why. Yeah.
Oh, totally. When I worked at Perisher, I'd go and ride Threadbow, even though in my mind it wasn't as good. I was like, nothing I can do to fix these jumps, but I'm having fun, you know? like it's out of my control and I don't give a fuck. And then I would go to and I would be at Perisher,
not my circus, not my monkeys.
Well, yeah, then I was at Perisher and I'd go and ride Threadbow and vice versa when I was the train park director on the other side.
Yeah.
But it was just it's not your problem and it's fun and it's just snowboarding. Because if you do ride your own shit all the time, you're always being critical.
Yeah.
And that's like, to me, it's not switching off. It's not getting away from work.
Yeah.
As fun as it is.
Yeah.
And then someone on the lift line will ask you about work and you're like, straight back to work.
That way you don't see your employees doing bad things.
Yeah.
That's another good thing
That too. I used to go ride squaw all the time when I worked over at North Star just because he was over there, park was great, and it was great. Just
he is Brandon Dodds.
Can't do anything. Yeah. I know I'm going to go hit good jumps over there at least.
Yeah. Quick question for you, Landon, before I maybe take one or two more from the audience, and then we got to transition into the rest of the program for the evening. But I heard a rumor. I haven't seen him yet, but can you confirm if Elliot Cohn is in the room?
Elliot Cohn
is he here?
Is here. Is he here?
Is he here?
Where's the old man?
Where's Elliot?
Oh, there he is. He's back there.
Yo, if you haven't met Elliot Cohn, he owes me a conversation, so I got to go talk to that guy after this. He said he doesn't know me shit, so we're not going to go there. But yeah, no, I think we've got some really special people that have contributed in large capacities to the industry. So just shouting one of them out there. If you haven't met Elliot yet, he's a legend in the industry as well. Corey Mack is on this row. Oh, I got my headphones on. I can't hear you. But yeah, talk to people. We got some cool folks here. Do we have any more questions from the group?
There's a Jeremy Cooper one in the back coming up. He's chasing it down.
Oh my!
He wants it.
Oh God, here we go.
All right. So, Day, I got to meet you at the start of my career in 2002. And you had always
1902?
said, yeah, 1902. It's before Trollhagen was actually a hill. Early days.
Team Fossil.
Yep. And you said something to me that really resonated, and it's
oh no.
Yeah, it's right. Like we didn't think about the things we'd say. But
especially
at
back
some
then.
point, you had bigger dreams out there, and you said, I just don't want to be that 30-year-old creepy dude still working in the parks.
I've said that every 10 years.
But then I got to be the 30-year-old creepy guy, and guys like Elliot were the 30. And then we turned 40,
and we
some of us have
said
turned
we're not
50.
going to be the
I'm not
50-year-old.
50, but do you foresee yourself still driving snowcats with an AARP card in your wallet?
Possibly. Every decade I'm not going to be the 30-year-old park builder. I'm not going to be the 40-year-old park builder. At some point, I'm going to stop being able to see lines and things that
Start like tapping rails.
Yeah, that I like. Because to this day, man, I can still look at that park with my crew and go, man, if I could still ride like you guys, there's a line right there that none of you have seen that I would find. And I guess my answer is until that day when I can't see that anymore, I love driving these machines and I love doing what I do. It's why I keep coming back to it. I've only left one season in the last since 94 or something. And I missed it that season. You know, I've gone into dirt, I've messed around and everything else, but I still always come back to the silly snowcat because it makes me happy.
So you're saying you're not going to stop being blind?
That's pretty much it.
I love it, man.
As long as my walker makes it to the tracks and I can still climb in it.
Cooper, you should pass the bike, man. Who else has a question?
Now, to say 30 is old and creepy. What the hell? I'm 29. This is my rookie season. I work down in Jackson Hole. I'm also the assistant manager. Charles, I had a question for you. You were talking about kind of including our programs into perhaps promoting our need for terrain. Batera knows we're extremely terrain starved for our terrain parks in Jackson Hole. We've been looking and we have tons of terrain, you know, but we're not allowed to put it there, and we couldn't put it there because that takes away from X, Y, and Z, and it's a struggle. It's funny you say that because this year I was thinking, I did some work with the free ride program, and they have this really elevated level right now of like 12 to 16-year-olds. They rip, and they just got all this style in the last like couple years. They're absolutely insane, and these dudes are having to go down to Park City and like over to Idaho to go train. The biggest jump we have is probably 25 feet, and they took away our half pipe. So I was joking around with their director, and I was like, you know, maybe if I wrote a letter, would you like sign it, and we could pass that on? And you brought it up, and is that actually like a plan of attack that you would recommend? Like, where do I start? Do I talk to the parents of this free ride program? Like,
I think being a terrain park manager sometimes is pretty political, and you have to have a pretty cool head about it. I think like Threadbow, where I started, I did 12 years there as a park manager. Same problem, like it's quite steep, so you're really basically fighting ski school for beginner terrain, and that becomes hard because ski schools, like, we make money and beginners make money, and parks don't have as many people. So I think like if you can leverage parents and you have relationships with parents that are influential, can write letters, even do like, you know, Facebook or social media stuff to kind of push things. Get with like the freestyle program coaches and maybe ski school director and just say, you know, we have to allocate some area to this. One kind of workaround we found at Threadbow was beginners like beginner runs. So like one way we kind of got around that was like we found sections of terrain that was suitable on the blue runs and other areas that were like, you know, even in Perisher, like we'd look for areas that weren't popular skiing, but you could build features, and we basically would line them up on certain runs and use the pitches that were suitable, and we called them pocket parks. So, and in my mind, like, it was kind of cooler for families too, because mum and dad could like shred the blue run while the kids, you know, kind of learn to snowboard and ski properly as well down the hill, but they have like these pockets of freestyle shed as well, and it worked. But I mean, you have to be creative with how you find workarounds, because ultimately you're competing against beginners in ski school, and that's always going to trump you. So try and find a yeah.
But can I add just a little bit?
Yeah, add a little bit, and then we're going to take one more question so we can stay.
The hardest part is justifying your existence. And that's been every terrain park's problem since the start. At the end of the day, the guy who's in charge has to decide where the lift tickets are being sold. And if you can justify that those kids are buying X, Y, and Z, it will help your cause. I was at Mammoth when we stood there with clickers and counted people through the gate all day with Oren, trying to figure out, because most resorts cannot actually justify how many people go through that park. And that's the biggest struggle. I don't have any silver bullet for you, but I would just try to focus on those kids that are, whether they're buying whatever from the resort, and go that route, because you've got to build your clientele just like you build your park. It starts slow, and I know we all want to go to the 70-foot table the first week, but you've got to build those clients to match the park.
Solid.
It does. As each group comes, or each culture, or core group comes in, they build that park with you. It's a collective, in my opinion. Because if you go build whatever he built 2 weeks ago at my hill, nobody's going to ride it.
So true. Well, let's take one more question so we can stay on schedule. We got anybody? Anybody got one more question? Closer of a question.
Sam, from all the way up in the East Coast, Maine, drove all the way out here. Really stoked to be here.
You drove here?
Yeah.
Drove?
Yeah. Super easy, simple question. What was your favorite feature you built this year?
Love it. Solid closer of a question.
Me.
Who? Is it all
Anybody?
of us?
Anybody? Landon, you go first.
I would say probably, it's hard to say, just a feature, man. We've done so many cool things this year. Peace Park had some pretty cool features in it this year, so I'd pick one of those, but I can't tell you exactly which one.
Copy. Marsha, what you got?
It was built at the tail end of last year by Grady Tank and Bill Brandt, otherwise known as Head Ass LLC. Look them up. The MJ firecracker, talking about skate parks and sound. Goddamn, that firecracker was used and abused and loved so much.
Love it. Charles?
Pretty generic answer, but the jump I built at Mammoth a couple of days back. It's just like I've never had that much snow to work with in my life, and I didn't have to compromise on anything. So, and the Mammoth crew are just incredible, and they help push. So it was a pretty easy one.
Nice.
It's a work of art.
Thank you.
Day?
I'm going to say that silly bell, just because it made everyone think there is something else.
Yeah.
Like, and not just you guys. I mean, my riders all went, whoa, there's a whole new bag of tricks we can throw at this thing. And that just feeds me to go more. I'm always walking this line between miniature golf and terrain parks, though. I don't want to. I don't want to get into the silly windmill at the end of the park, but something like that bell. The satisfaction when you hear that thing going up that rope tow, and everybody's just like, yes. It's a good time.
That's tight. Well, hey, I do want to wrap it up so we can stay on schedule. I'd like to thank Prenoth, Sam Magazine, and all of our panelists up there. And circling back to what Ben said earlier, too, this week you're here for you as the camper. And so, as I mentioned, we have some incredible people here that have been in the industry for quite some time. So you need to feel as though they're approachable. Take a minute or two, say hi, reach out. If you're scared, I'll walk over there with you. We'll shake hands. I'll help you out. Let me know how I can be of service too. But just make it for you, right? You want to take something away from this week.